Hello, everybody, and welcome to round two here from the Nerd Rage Gaming home store in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. We're in season 3, week 7 of our Modern League. We had a little bit of a delay, a little bit of hiccup. This is round number 2. Do not fret. You did not miss round 1. There was no round 1, so welcome to round 2. I'm Dom Stryker alongside David. David, how are you doing today?
I'm very excited to
Aw-
be on this side of the camera.
As if those keen-eyed watchers, if you tuned in last week, this is in fact the same David who eviscerated me in round 2 of coverage last week. We made the safe plan to remove him from the battle zone and move him back here, and we are a-okay and on the way.
Um, what do you know about how Mill plays out versus four-color trade binder over here?
This is the great question, right? So we have to first kind of contextualize what George is up to, right? So, uh, if many people who know George, George is a prolific blue player. And when George gets a little, let's say, bored, he loves to play this 4-color no blue to play all the other cards he owns. So we're talking things like Bowmasters, Renin 6, maybe bringing up some Solitude. There's going to be a lot of nonsense going on here. George even built it live on stream earlier today, so there's going to be some odd one-ofs. He basically took not even deck donos, but just like homie shoutouts, just added random cards that people asked for into this deck. So we'll hopefully be able to see some of those. But the question doesn't matter if your opponent double archive traps you
Oh,
on turn number
wow.
1.
So that's 26 cards in the bin, and George is not playing Yorion, right?
Right, that one's banned. So
Oh, true.
so it's the 26 cards in the bin. The real important piece is if this is going to aggressively attack George's mana or not. Right, in a fetch shock mana base, sometimes you can strand your land if they get milled away. But very importantly, George is not playing a combo or like an A plus B in any way. These are just cards that are good, which means he doesn't have to worry that much about Mill taking important pieces. He's still just looking to curve out and cast his spells. But the important part is applying his own clock because Richard got to turbocharge with the 26 milled cards.
For sure. If George has endurance, that might also be something worth if he can endurance himself too.
Yes, right, because the self endurance, which is the secret second mode, unless you were a Nadu player, was allowing yourself to shuffle that graveyard back in. And importantly, so far, all of the milling effects that Richard has done are the actual factual mill and not the exile mill from cards like Tasha's Hideous Laughter.
Hmm.
But George now getting a Field of Ruin out of Richard, losing his Savai Triumph and finding a Plains, so losing 2 colors in this transaction, losing access to black and red.
Is that a stomping ground in hand from George? I couldn't
It'd
tell.
be very helpful if it is.
Let's
But
see.
this is the currently meager aggression that Georges has in this Bowmaster, doing the 1 point straight up and now the 2 in combat. Is a Sacred Foundry, so unlocking Naya colors, and Flage, which is fully fueled by these archive traps.
Yeah, let's see if George can get a second red source though.
Right, and the main question is many of these mill decks will be main decking some number of Surgical Extraction or Extirpate effects. So the question will also be if Richard needs to fire something like that off to deal with this Flage. This is the hard casting of this card that's typically cycled to mill for, but I believe the hard cast mill is like 10 or some 13. The hard cast is no joke here on, it's not Fraying Sanity, it's the other one.
Yeah.
And that now we're getting surgical.
Yeah,
Gee.
that was a good call out. I assume we're hitting Flage.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so we're hitting the Flages. I think Richard did a quick deck count as well. All 4 of those Flages have milled over since George has been milled for 39 cards so far. And if you do your mill math, right, a player's life total, if the beginning of a game, if they keep a 7, is 53 cards in hand. George has played 3 turns, which is 50. I believe we fetched once or twice, so that's down to like 48. So I would imagine George with around 10 to 12 cards remaining in library. And here's that Fractured Sanity, mill 14.
That was some quick counting.
It's kind of like if you're friends with Adam long enough, you figure out your burn math. It's the same way. You got to figure out how the mill math works too.
Fair enough. Okay. I imagine we're probably keeping anything on top with this surveil.
Um, yes, right, because we just can't risk cards going
That's what I
away.
was thinking. Yeah.
And quick pokes here. Here's our Renin 6. This is also another very slow clock if George wants to deal 1 damage at a time. And he does, take down. Rich is at 9.
Looks like
So
yeah.
clock's not that far away. Oh, but he gets to cast Visions of Beyond. Because the player has 20 cards, this is Recall. This is Ancestral Recall. This is Draw 3. Well, into Pass Back? Okay.
Pass back, okay.
A lot of these mill cards are sorcery speed. Not a single crab for Richard yet either, so these 1/1s get to keep attacking.
Drown
John Lock.
Very much turned on here.
Yeah, I would say so. We can get a quick graveyard count, but I don't think we'll need to.
No, I don't think so.
Down to 8, down to 7. Rich is hanging on. Okay, yes, we are using these Wrens as bolts, right? If we can wait 3 turns, these get to be bolts for us.
He's only at 6.
Yes.
Surely, I feel like George should be dead any moment now,
though. Because there aren't that many cards to work with.
Down to 3.
Oh, Hardcast Trap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scoops it up.
Okay, give the people what they want. Does the deck list for this exist for viewing pleasures? No, it does not. So we can piece it together. We saw the whole thing technically, right? So you're talking a full domain package for things like Leyline Binding and Prismatic Ending. We saw Orcish Bowmaster. We saw Renin 6. What other goodies have we seen?
Let's see if we can get a look going through the
We saw those Flages.
Yeah.
Those will be a big part of the overall engine for this deck.
Prismatic Ending, it looks
Prismatic, yeah. Yeah, George has left home without the blue cards, but not the power of things like Leyland Binding and Prismatic Ending. Richard playing very classic mill, but as a mill player, also one unafraid to just kind of tap out for his spells. Kept that double trap hand. Cast the fraying for actually its mana cost, so instead of cycling to mill 4, there's a cast to mill 14. Bergman, this is not a bad point. George's deck is kind of cards that have recently rotated deck. There are some goods in here, and they're being supplemented by Flage. There is this cards like Bowmaster, right? So some cards that are still frequently played, but George did actively say that he wants to, dust off some of the cards that don't get to see much play out of his binder and put them all to use today. And Richard wanted to see all of them, so that's why he's playing mill. Yeah, you don't need to ask your opponent for their deck list if you just slowly mill it all out.
Very true.
Okay, so we were trying to figure out how this was going to go. I stand by that I think George needs a clock of some kind. The question is if the deck has clocks.
Yeah, I mean, I know that sometimes players will just bring in their whole sideboard against mill.
Oh, yes. I believe George did have some number of endurances, if I remember correct, when we were building this. A very hard castable spell on top of, being one that you could pitch and toss a green card aside. So, if anything, sometimes I'm a big proponent of you can at least go to 63, 64 and not have to worry that much.
Fair enough.
And depending on if we see George draw just some real odd ones, we'll find out just how many sideboard cards actually came in. If he draws something that we say, I don't know if this has any use whatsoever. Oh, yeah, dude, we got a quick link in chat to the link to the George's Flex slot. So for those of you who want to take a peek, it is currently up in the chat. You can open that up, get yourself a wonderful, beautiful little view while we are getting a little view at these opening 7s. Quick keep, Blood Crypt, Thoughtseize. I mean,
nice. So we got
a good card has arrived.
Crab, Drown in the Lock.
I think a Flooded Strand might be the access to blue mana here.
Oh, sure. That looks like 2 crabs.
1 Rune, 1 Hedron, and a Tasha's Hideous Laughter alongside that card that we saw not cycled in the first game, the Fraying. It's not Fraying Sanity. Fractured Sanity. Thank you. I keep fixing the wrong word. Both are mill cards, too, so Sanity is not helping out here.
Richard doing us a favor and playing face up.
Love a revealed hand. Here is the Hedron Crab. So the question will be if George held on something like a Prismatic Ending, took one of the crabs, it seems like most likely finding an answer for the second one here. Fetch Shock for a white source. Ooh.
All the way down to 13. Not that that's likely to matter in this
right.
matchup.
I believe this deck can actually factually deal 0 points of damage for Richard. The crabs have no power. Those are the only creatures.
yeah. Very much like playing against Infect, where your life total really doesn't matter.
Yeah, you have a different life total, right? So if you're playing against Infect, it is actual factual Infect. Playing against Mill, it's your cards and library. Millnet Flage.
We have Arid Mesa and Sacred Foundry also hitting the bin there.
Importantly, though, Richard most likely looks to be holding up this Drown in the lock, which means George has to kind of understand whatever he throws out there might just meet the Drown. But a Thoughtseize will allow him to clean things up here. Drown, Tasha's, Fractured Sanity, Visions of Beyond, and Field of Ruin. So Richard's going to get this field next turn. Is really going to start taking care of George's mana and triggering these crabs.
Now, do you think it's more important to hold on to the Field of Ruin to try and trigger Archive Trap with the Forced Search, or are you trying to crack it right away for the quick 6 mil?
It might be a smart move, like you're saying, to hold on to it because the hand doesn't quite do anything. And Richard can at least cycle the Fractured Sanity, draw a card and mill 4 that way. And with George getting this 3rd land and now picking up the 4th from the Wrenn, Richard may not really have the option to like strand mana. So we can see that cycle here.
Pick up a fresh card too.
Yeah, I mean, George has said if he wants to Flage, and he took the Drown the Lock, so to kind of try to clear the way to get this Flage through.
Sure, and we'll see shortly, I guess, what Richard thinks about. And
George has Fables. That's a card that I don't think we even noticed going through in game number 1. But going after that Blood Crypt here, we saw George had a Plains. Is that the... Hey, whoa.
George?
Whoa, hey, George.
Sure.
There it is. Okay.
He figured it out.
Oh?
What?
Nope. We're gonna go give him a quick poke real quick. Whoop. Oh, okay, he's going to fetching.
We'll make sure things get sorted out here.
Whoop. The door's open. Yell at George incoming. Moment of realization. Oh, you can hear it. The explanation happening. Oh yeah, you can see the clarification and the realization setting in.
George is like, what did I do?
Okay, we're seeing the swap. Ketri is going back into the library. We're fetching out the Savai and then finding a basic. A lot happens. A lot happens in the quick succession. It looks to be that same Plains that we saw before. I don't know if that's the only basic, but it's starting to feel like it.
Yeah, I was trying to pay attention. I did not notice anymore. Not that that means there aren't any, but...
1 Endurance milled over for George. This is important that if Richard does find some more interactive pieces, he could possibly take that away from the rest of the library.
We have an Archive Trap, so one of those...
There's another Endurance gone.
Brutal.
In addition, we saw some goodies like 6. Not Red and 6, but 6. And Richard now with a Surgical. If we're going after the Endurance, this might be all they wrote. It's Flage again. You got to get that Flage. Richard's still at 17. We talked about George's attempt at finding pressure, but Richard may have fought it off just long enough. 2 more Flages in hand?
Flages.
That's not okay. Richard, that's not okay.
Okay, it does look like, unless we see some sort of mana interaction, which it doesn't look like Richard has right now, we're going to be able to have a Shieldred in play.
George would love to, right? We're going to go off this Overgrown Tomb. George's going to cast this Shieldred. That is a clock, right? A clock finally found, clock unlocked. Down to 8. Cast Shieldred. Richard's going to Visions of Beyond to draw 3 before the Shieldred resolves. Great timing, I would say.
Oh, and then we get a Fetchland back with the Wrenn and 6, or the Ketri Tram we got milled over, and we put it back into play. Okay.
And now...
We have Tasha's land. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful Georgie here. Scooping up the Tasha's going to take just far too many cards away from him. You're going to take a time, take a moment, take a break. But that is a quick match. Richard on mill taking it down 2-0 against no blue 4-color George over here. Just playing the good cards, dusting them off, giving them a run for their money. But as much as you don't think so, Mill is fast. Real quick, is there anything that we can show the lovely people while we got them here? Hold on, everybody. This is the weekly schedule. What you can currently see, we're on Wednesday. This is the 6:30 live stream for Modern. Additionally, the Nerd Rage Game Home Store streams on Thursdays for the 6:30 Pokemon. But additionally, if you're local, you can come on by and play some EDH on that beautiful 4 p.m. on Thursday. Friday is, as Habib likes to put it, Boomer versus Zoomer Friday. So there is, if you're a Boomer, you can come and play Legacy. If you're a Zoomer, you can come and play Standard. And if you enjoy the other games, you can stop by and play some One Piece. Saturday's got Digimon. Then you circle right back on to Monday, Digimon once again, and Elder Dragon Highlander if you're a Magic gamer, just like these lovely folks here. And Tuesdays, get that Pioneer off here. They're long canceled, but those One Piece players still out here running these streets. Very popular game. So if you enjoy Magic, you may enjoy some of these other games as well. You can stop by nerdragegaming.com, pick up those lovely, beautiful cards and all that is being offered by the lovely folks here. More cards listed every single day. With that being said, we're going to take a break. We will see all you fine folks for round number 3. David, thank you so much. 1 round down.
I'm so excited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Round number 3, week 3, oh, I'm so sorry, week 7 of season 3. These are two of the coolest and spiciest decks that we saw out there in the field, and then they got paired up against one another, so I could not resist. I'm Diamond Striker alongside David. Welcome back. Round 3, take it away.
We've got Jund with the Delirium sub theme here. You think inspired by the Aspiring Spike stuff?
Yes, so I believe Sudeep is pretty close to the Aspiring Spike list when he got to the end of the brew, splashing black to toss these Netherglyphs in because they're huge.
And then we have Is It Creativity, the classic old, I don't know, medium-aged modern deck now.
Well, yeah, and Mike is not playing 4-color creativity that we came to know for a while of Spell Pierce, Reprieve, Teferi, Renin 6. Mike is playing an Is It version, kind of leaning on the backbone of actual factual counterspells and using things like Brain Surge to slip your Archons back on top of your deck so that you can creativity through them, as well as the same standbys of using cards like Fable and Deduce and the like to get those tokens out there for that namesake creativity.
Yeah, we saw the Pyroclads in there as one of the looks.
Yeah, Mike just said main deck Pyros, which might go over pretty well for him here. Sudeep is playing threats like Dragon's Rage Channeler, Necrogoyf, Ominous Flytrap. There's going to be a lot of pieces that are going to hit very, very hard and get big, but they'll need Delirium, which Sudeep is starting to work towards.
So we have DRC. I imagine we're going to get... there we go.
You must. It's required by law that your DRCs are followed by baubles. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We've been to say its name. I love this card so much. So Sudeep, if you're doing the check out there, he currently has Artifact and Sorcery. Say its name is the mill 3. Pick up a creature or land, and if you exile 3 of them of your yard, you can bring Altanach, the thrice called, from your deck, graveyard, or hand into play. So Sudeep, say its name, check, count 1.
Is he playing the big guy?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Here's that say its name for you. Like I said, that mill 3, pick up a creature or land. What's great about this card is it is not from among those 3 cards milled. So as the game goes longer and longer and longer, kind of works as a demonic tutor from the graveyard for Sudeep. Here's Altanach, the big giant 9/9 trampler. But this is just that Netherglyph, already a 3-power creature coming in on turn 2.
And we're shocking in. So what do you think Sudeep's holding up here? Or is there
I believe it is Bolt or Tarfire. Are you familiar with Tarfire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that allows Sudeep to get the Kindred card type, a recent upgrade, to allow to get more types off the removal spells. But I believe I see that GP full art promo Bolt out of Sudeep's hand. And Sudeep might not know what Mike's up to yet. Some of the important parts for the Is It Creativity deck is trying to find ways to sacrifice to your creativity cards that are not creatures, right? So try and do so off maybe a treasure or a clue so that you're not susceptible to those removal spells, like a lightning bolt.
We have a sorcery speed bolt here. What do you think is the reason for that?
Good question.
Okay, third land. We didn't see any a bolt from Sudeep on the end step though. So
No, might know what they're up against, holding some of these cards to be ready to interact. But also that creature going into the yard is full classic Delirium for Sudeep, but also means that these Goyfs are attacking for 4.
it's so big. So now I imagine we're gonna get a surveil land for Michael. Try and churn through our deck and find either a creativity if we're missing that or some way to make tokens.
Right. The thing that is difficult is because this is an Is It based deck, the removal is in the form of those cards like Bolt, and these Goyfs are already just too big. We can't bolt these 4/5s. So Mike here finding this basic mountain and island cycling.
Yeah. We saw the consideration for the surveil land, and he changed his mind, went to go pick it up off the Lorien revealed. Getting those crucial red sources for...
Yeah. If I'm Mike, I am terrified because the exact card type that Sudeep does not have yet is instant. So if it's on your radar that Sudeep could have this Bolt, this could all combine together to be Bolt plus 5 damage per Goyf, which is 13 damage, which is far more than Mike's life total.
He's already at 9. That's a very quick clock here. And we're not even seeing some of the like cool
You
stuff.
know, this is just the Goif beatdown. And Mike even has that main deck Pyroclasm that we were talking about. And these cards are way too big already.
Yeah, this is a situation where if you were playing black, you'd really love to have a fatal push or something. But with
Yes.
the
Or a white, something like a prismatic ending. But because we're stuck specifically in these blue-red colors, the answer to these is hope.
yeah, we kept top, and I saw a Galvanic Discharge, but it looks
There's
like
the bolt.
that was a good call. And that's such a good looking
And
bolt.
this is a perfect time for the bolt because Sudeep does not play into Force of Negation, which he saw milled from Mike, right? So Sudeep doing so on Mike's end set makes sure that one, the bolt can't be forced, which means it doesn't get exiled, so that it stays in the yard. So it not only is it adding those types, but adding that damage. So a perfect timing on that bolt.
Yeah, very nice. So we have some interesting options here in Michael's sideboard. I can see. We're not bringing in Iona, or is that a OG Elishnorn in there
Yes,
also?
yeah. The two sideboard jukes are Iona and OG Elishnorn, and it I mean, it looks like Mike snapped off bringing in both of those, but you're going to look at your classic Is It Sideboard cards, including Blood Moon, because this is a blue-red base version of the Creativity deck, allows Mike the ability to play cards like Blood Moon. But I think the card that he first snapped bringing in was a Surgical Extraction as well. It'll be interesting because attacking the graveyard singularly like that, going after specific cards, isn't going to have the biggest impact, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do with your sideboard cards available.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also maybe expecting some sort of the Nethergorfs can come back. Maybe there's something else that can
Mm-hmm.
come back. Otherwise, you really would want like a Soul God Lantern or a Rest in Peace or something that hits the whole
Mm-hmm.
graveyard.
And, you know, to Mike's credit, all he saw was cards being milled and two massive goifs. So, unless you're fully up to date on what's going on, or if you're watching Sudeep's early rounds, Mike just may not quite know just yet what it is that he needs to attack down.
For sure. How familiar are you with Sudeep's sideboard?
Let's see. It's going to be green and red cards. So I bet there's something like endurance, maybe something like Alpine Moons. What I'm saying is nothing that I can think of that Sudeep's going to want immediately here. I don't know how big the actual Black Splash is into this green-red deck. I know that was to add the Goifs. I'm not sure if Sudeep also used it to add important sideboard cards. But if I am Sudeep, I might be trying to get some number of the less interesting cards, maybe one or two of those bolts or whatnot, if there are cards that he does feel are highly effective sideboard pieces.
That makes total sense. Bolt has we didn't see any targets for it here except for the face. As a burn player, I love to target face with Bolt, but maybe not the best option here for Sudeep.
Right, because though Mike is playing creativity, which is found its original backbone in folks fetching for Dwarven Mine, the good creativities are ones, like I said at the beginning, off non-creature permanents, right? Trying to hit those artifacts that the deck kind of makes on accident, because that way you don't have to get accidentally oopsed by cards like Unholy Heat, Bolt, Tarfire. So it'll be interesting to see how the game plays out, but Mike does have important pieces, things like Shark Typhoon and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, that we might still see some creatures floating around, some targets for those removal spells. So I believe it either way all around.
Yeah, and Sudeep really didn't see anything. We saw some cards milled into the graveyard, regular blue-red stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah, at the end of the day, Sudeep saw a couple of fetch lands, a Force of Negation get milled over, a... Were there any other spells cast, really?
I don't. We saw some preordains, so
Okay, and Preordain's great. So learning tons of information about my opponent's blue deck.
yeah, I wonder if Sudeep is expecting like a Murktide or something of that nature.
It does so far from the cards played feel kind of just like a classic blue-red Murktide, which, funny enough, Mike has played before, so it's not that far off for him. Drawing up cards like Fable, Bolt, Pyroclasm, fetch. Mike's hand is starting off pretty strong. One more fetch land and a Galvanic Discharge. All right. See any goodies out of the Jund side over there?
We have the Detective's Phoenix.
The Detective's Phoenix. Very good.
I think I see an Overgrown Tomb. And
A Stomping Ground. Maybe a Malevolent Rumble. it's very fun, right? You get to see a sliver of artwork. So
Okay.
DRC.
Do we have the combination of?
Yeah, where's its bestie? There it is. There it
Let's
is. There
go.
it is.
And I did see also another Goyf in Sudeep's hand.
Okay. Instead, having kind of the 1-2 punch of DRC into Bobble, the Goyf will get bigger over time, but this allows Sudeep the card velocity of these surveil triggers.
And it looks like we kept on top.
All right, digging deep with this Scalding Tarn. Is this? Yeah, we're killing a DRC. Because this is important for Mike is to just not fall behind, right? Just try to keep up for a little bit, because if he is able to keep up and then fire off a creativity, that'll be no problemo. The hard part is getting to that point of the game.
Yeah, and he even gets to bank some energy here. I'm not sure if that's
Oh.
gonna come up, but maybe
It fuels future
right.
discharges.
So if there's a big another Goyf in the future, now he has some extra energy to deal with that.
Yeah, because that's going to allow the next discharge to be for 5, which would have at least helped at some points along the way of that last game. So not nothing, though, maybe unexpected.
For sure. And we're not seeing a crack on this Bobble. Just because we don't need the Delirium just yet, we can leave it until later.
Yeah, Sudeep might be protecting his graveyard just in case against whatever could be the graveyard hate out of Michael Ryan's deck. But a fun fact is, once Sudeep sees the card Indomitable Creativity, that lets you know that your opponent, Michael here, is not playing any artifact-based graveyard hate, because those would ruin your creativities.
Oh yeah,
That's
true.
You'd be hoping for an Archon, and you'd hit a
Tormod script.
Tormod script, right? So, depending on the amount of information he knows, it'll start to help him figure out what cards he does and does not need to play around.
Sudeep, considering what he's going to get here with his fetch land, and Michael maybe representing counterspell or some other interaction here.
The joys of this being is it creativity is Mike can just play straight up counterspell. Not worrying about having to play something like Spell Pierce or Reprieve that the decks have played in the past to weave around a complicated mana base. This mana base is just is it, so counterspell is back on the menu.
And that's 2 mana, so it's got to be Fear of Missing Out.
That's
right?
the fear of missing out. ETB, discard a card, draw a card. When it attacks, if you have Delirium, you gain additional combat and untap a creature.
We do see the bolt right away in response to the trigger, it looks like.
And what's wild about this fear of missing out is it is an enchantment creature, and its effect lets Sudeep discard a Detective's Phoenix, maintaining that we now have enchantment, creature, and land in the yard for Sudeep, but a deep well of them. So if he's looking to try to bestow this Detective Phoenix from the graveyard, we have opportunities for enchantment to still stick around.
Yeah, we are still only a 3 mana value in terms of other cards besides that Phoenix, so Sudeep will need a couple more things. Surveilling that Archon, I think Sudeep probably knows what's up.
Uh-oh, we've seen it, we've binned it. And we saw Mike did just draw actual factual counterspell there, so the instincts were correct.
Has that 3rd land also.
Sudeep also, that crack of the Bobble is adding to the overall Delirium count.
Yeah, we have that green die there right next to Sudeep's graveyard, keeping track of Delirium for us.
It's not fully correct right now, but if the issue arises, we will fix it. Here's tried and true Fable the Mirror Breaker. I drew that goblin, just for reference. We were out there watching round number 1 while we were getting things taken care of. I watched Mike resolve a Fable and not have a goblin, and then I watched him resolve a Dwarven Mine and not have a dwarf, and I drew these as fast as I possibly could. So that's this perfect goblin.
We do want to make sure that our tokens are accurate.
Right, this one is super accurate. Goyf's here.
And so it's actually just a 4/5 now, right?
Yes. Can you let Sudeep know that his die is on the wrong number?
So ticking up to chapter 2 here.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We have our wonderful, wonderful staff here at Energies can help fix that up real quick so that everything is correct and accurate. He just used the most matter-of-fact tone to tell you what it was and was wrong. But that's A-okay. We've got it all corrected. Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
So Michael is thinking about discarding cards to his Fable.
Oh, he was looking at discarding that. I saw a Pyroclasm flashed real quick.
Right. It was in the graveyard, and now it's come back out. So considering his options.
And we are dropping the Pyroclasm if you are Michael. That's one card redrawn. And just the one. Just the one. Picking up looks like a Steam Vent. That's land number 4. So now the dance begins.
Do you want to have your 4th land attack with the goblin to try and get the treasure token?
I personally would love to attack and try to use the treasure as your creativity target because of this.
Tarfire, yeah.
So specifically, Tarfire here is going to kill this goblin, which then creativity has nothing to sacrifice, and therefore will find for X equals 0.
And Tarfire being 2 types here, instant and what's the updated Kindred now?
Kindred, yeah. So we are at so many types for this Goyf now.
And if we manage to see a fly trap,
Oh.
Surgical Extraction coming in.
I'm not sure in like what moment or phase Mike just kind of flashed it all of a sudden, and hitting the Phoenix. Love, beautiful choice.
Okay, we get to see the hand. Say its name, another Goyf, and an Arena of Glory. And then Michael will go through that deck and take out any extra Phoenixes.
Oddly enough, though, right, we removed the Phoenix, which is a double-typed card, but it's coming up from what I said before that we have this FOMO, this fear of missing out, which means we retain still having enchantment and then creature alongside this mill DRC as well.
Absolutely. So no adjustment of the types just yet for Sudeep. And like I was saying before, we saw this surgical. If Sudeep does find on his draw step a fly trap, we're going to see a lot of +1/+1 counters come in, which is the reason, or one of the reasons for all this delirium shenanigans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now Sudeep's going to be able to crack the badge. I thought it was going to be find a Surveillant, but it looks like possibly shocking for the amount of damage that Sudeep took there. Nope, it was a Surveil. I think I just saw maybe a quick touch there.
I think tapped on the wrong side and brought it back.
Oh, we've all been there. So this allows Sudeep to get this mill. Oddly enough, kind of this is the spot where he may have been on the hunt for cards like Detective's Phoenix, but now I'm on the hunt for that ominous fly trap, right? Just the biggest possible amount of damage output. Sudeep would be able to put 2 counters and then double them, give it haste with the arena, and do that all over again. It is built Titan style of attack trigger and ETB trigger.
Okay, we're milling over another bauble. Don't want that. And let's see, what do we get? There's that arena.
Okay, the arena got played out pretty quick there. And an exert of the arena. Is this a FOMO with haste? No. Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay. Let's say its name. Finding a fly trap.
So we're using one of the exerted mana, do you think? And then to cast the Say name and holding up one more to...
Okay. Yeah. Okay, now grabbing the FOMO, Sudeep should have 1 haste mana floating.
7 types also now with a sorcery.
Oh, wow. Okay. And now FOMO with haste.
Discard land.
This Goyf is huge. Oh, it's just 7 and then 7 again. That's gamesies.
Brutal.
Because the Goyf was humongous. Well, big shout outs to that FOMO. Fear of missing out. Fear of attacking for 14 damage. Holy cow. Well, what a beautiful, fun game here of this Jund Delirium deck. Upgrading, possibly going to be battling it out in our round number 4. Big shout out to Mike for brewing up and playing this Is It Creativity deck. I wanted to get both of these decks on feature. Then they got paired up against each other, and it became the perfect feature match to showcase some of these goods. Bryce, what do we have to show the fine folks today? Nothing. Absolutely not. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We will be back as soon as possible with round number 4. I've been Dom Striker alongside David. We will see you as soon as we can. Don't go anywhere. See you soon. Bye.
See ya.
everybody, and welcome back to round number 4, season 3, week 7 of the NRG home store here in Buffalo Grove, Illinois Weekly Modern League. This is our most interesting 2-1 match that we had available, so we're bringing them right on back here to camera. I'm Dom Stryker alongside David. David, welcome back.
Let's get ready. We've got hopefully a more challenging matchup for Sudeep here.
Yeah, so our current undefeated player out there is Storm. We weren't prepared for a Storm day, so we're bringing Sudeep back for Vengeance while playing against Brian Tepper on 4-color control. This is basically your classic control shell, supplemented by cards like Omnath and the One Ring to try to gain really big velocity, even with that old school Kahira companion here for Brian.
Yeah, I heard Brian talking earlier about how the Omnats were in place of something. I missed what he was replacing them with.
Oh.
So they're not in the deck, so I guess we won't find out what it is. But
Right. Yeah, and the Omnats have always been like a big mana engine for this deck when it kind of was just more of the quote-unquote money pile. But I think it kind of got supplanted by the ring, but Brian is still holding strong and playing them alongside each other.
Yeah, it does. It is nice that it gives you that life total buffer.
Yes. It's we always found these classic pairings for the One Ring. Like One Ring goes well with Shieldred, One Ring goes well with Omnath, and now One Ring goes well with Flage. There's all these weird supplemental life gain cards that go really well alongside the busted One Ring. Sudeep, Jund Delirium. We're talking Ominous Flytrap. We're talking Dragon Rage Channeler. We're talking Nethergoyf. Those cards hit hard and fast alongside the Fear of Missing Out and Arena of Glory. We watched Sudeep win games last round fast.
Yeah, we saw some Delirium from Sudeep last round, but mostly just Giant Goyf. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any of that Fly Trap or additional FOMO action.
Yeah, the Fly Traps are a huge part of this. A card that was maybe not well received during preview season, but here we have a Fear of Missing Out on the stack, and we got a reader.
So if this resolves, we are going to get the first trigger, but Sudeep electing not to exert the Arena of Glory. I notice he pulls it out to show it's
Right.
exerted. So
and no Delirium, right? So he was kind of missing the ability to get like the extra combat phase, anyways. So just using this as a value 2 drop that they made a 2/3 for some reason. Big old booty on this Fear of Missing Out. And allows Sudeep to drop a fetch land, draw a new card, and play out a bobble.
Brian going to fetch here, presumably Triumph. We got Zagoth. So there's a Sacred Foundry in hand, right? That'll get us all the way up to.
Yeah, I don't know if it is in hand, but Foundry's the one, right? The two of those together give you that wham bam thank you of having your mana fully set up. And there's that Foundry, so full Delirium available for Brian.
So no bobble. Picking up a Flooded Strand for Brian. I do imagine we're gonna see. Okay, no, a fetch land.
Probably for the Elegant Parlor. Probably get that Surveil action going.
That's true. And if Brian doesn't have a counterspell in hand, we do have a consign it to memory, but no counterspell. So.
Say my name, say my name. So we have here say its name. so Brian reading a card per turn, basically on average for Sudeep so far here. Say its name. Again, this is a mill 3. Pick up a creature or land, any from among your graveyard, not just those milled. Then you can exile 3 of these say its names to bring Altanok, the thrice called, rumbling into the battlefield. What's interesting about this say its name is, like I said, it's not from the among the milled cards, but any card in your graveyard. So it is better late game as long as you are not playing against some sort of graveyard hate. Whereas cards like a Philology Archaeologist would care from among the milled cards, would let you get them even through graveyard hate, but say its name is more versatile, but does not get through the hate. And here's a consign on the attack trigger.
Yeah, the say its name did get us up to the full Delirium, so Brian electing to get rid of that trigger for the FOMO.
A big thing I like to talk about is recontextualizing what your card says that it does and what it does in the game, right? So for Tepper here, recontextualizing this consign to memory as a 1 mana gain 2 life, right? Because the FOMO would have attacked for 2, untapped attacked for 2. We countered that untap additional combat phase, saving us 2 life. So we can recontextualize that consign to memory to be a 1 mana gain 2 in this situation, which Brian was willing to cash it in for.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that there's a lot of I mean, maybe you counted the same trigger again in a later turn, potentially saving you more life. But Brian had the extra blue mana, and so he was choosing to be mana efficient over a potentially higher valued counter later.
And now this pending very specifically exiling the fear of missing out, so not allowing it to help supplement regain delirium over and over and over. Yeah, like you were saying, Tepper was trying to be mana efficient, right? Having that blue mana sitting around, cashing that consign, because sometimes the way a player can fall behind in a game, just falling behind on mana efficiency. So Brian is making sure to use as much of it as he possibly can each turn. Sudeep with a beautiful borderless wooded foothills here and finding a commercial district, getting that delirium and that scry on. Neither things are true. Surveilling. I said delirium and scry. Neither of that is true. Sudeep is searching for this to surveil. Thank you all so much.
True, and we have Sudeep has lots of foils and full arts here, and alternate arts really blinging out the deck.
Yeah, and Sudeep was a longtime Boros energy player for like quite some time. Then Spike came out of this deck, so you got pretty excited, jumped on this, played it last week, played an Arski with it, playing it this week again, just like jamming the cool new fun thing, which I can always respect.
Absolutely, and now we're seeing the exert for that Arena of Glory. We'll see what comes out on top.
Yeah, I'm sure nothing will happen from this, right? Looks like maybe... Ooh, a hasty Dragon Rage Channeler.
Okay, trigger Delirium. Or a Surveil, sorry.
Right. But that floating red can allow Sudeep to cash that in to bestow a Phoenix. But we can use it to haste out this FOMO on top of everything else.
And there's that that fly trap in the graveyard. So Sudeep only has say its names to get those out of the graveyard, right?
I believe that to be true. But Sudeep here combining DRC with FOMO, then FOMO untapping the DRC, rumbling in. There's 8 total damage out of nowhere that Tepper now has to deal with, going all the way down to 7 combined with his fetch.
Yeah, I know. I saw some at least one ring in Brian's hand, so it'll be really, is there a fourth land of any variety that comes into play untapped that will let Brian live for another turn?
Right, now is the time to try to slam that and try to find a way to survive, but FOMO really showing itself off here in this match for Sudeep.
Surveilling a land into the graveyard.
All right, so Brian has one, doesn't want that one. Draws this breeding pool, I believe, here off the top. Nailed it.
And there was the Sacred Foundry plus this Plains. So.
Oh, right, we've known of the Foundry this whole time. So here's the ring. Brian Tepper knows the rules. He's got to reveal his one ring tattoo on his arm. Beautifully well sequenced, always appreciated, and drawn up.
And then we hit an Omnath off the draw from the ring. So we know we've got 4 life from a landfall trigger as well coming up.
Yeah, we can see green, blue, red, white across those 4 lands for Brian Tepper. So Omnath will most likely be played, be resolved, alongside that landfall trigger from the Sacred Foundry, and that's the life gain we're on the hunt for if you're Tepper.
Dragon Trench attacking here, not for damage, but because it has the must attack.
Because it must. And then Sudeep is a rumbling. Remember, keep your eyes on these say its names. If Sudeep ever finds 3, Altanach is not far behind.
It's interesting to me. Altanach has a small downside where you do just lose if your opponent has a Bowmaster in play.
Yes, it's so funny.
But Sudeep playing against no Bowmaster
Right.
games we've seen so far.
Yeah, playing against an everything but black deck here, so does not need to worry about the oopsie whoopsie to putting your own Altanach into play. As I said, DRC must rumble. Here's the Eldrazi Scion for the full resolution of that rumble. And Tepper begins a digging.
Solitude also a big draw, although
we're just gonna ring cycle probably here. Of Tepper playing this brand new ring to regain protection and not worry about taking that damage.
Yeah. And then we'll play a tap land, I assume, and then maybe next turn if we can find a fetch land or there's a second Solitude. We're really cooking with gas here. We got.
Oh, the Sacred Foundry tapped. Sacred Foundry tapped. Sacred Foundry tapped. Toss it on back. Sudeep looks to be, I think it's stuck on 3 lands here. I'm trying to take a notice. I know one was picked up off the rumble. There it is. And here's the DRC that must attack once again.
Brian down to 5 here. Sudeep does have a bunch of red mana, and we know there's lightning bolts in the deck. But
Omnath, it's your time to shine.
yeah,
Brian needs you. Brian might be looking for a fetch line here to pair with that Omnath. Found Counterspell and Manamo.
so I don't believe Brian has a fetch land.
I think Brian's tempted by the untapping of the ring. The temptation of the ring. Oh, 1 mana. Pending Prismatic Ending, taking down this Dragon Regis Channeler to exile.
And then I wonder if we're just going to hardcast a Solitude.
Oh.
That will put us dead to both on our next turn after taking damage from the ring, though.
Tepper's going to do now. Own turn, sorcery speed, lets you deep gain. But this allows Tepper to kind of a blocker to play against this Arena of Glory, depending on what Sudeep is trying to haste out. But if Sudeep gets a creature and then puts the Detective Phoenix on it, it'll have flying.
Oh, that's true.
The Phoenix give flying.
Yeah, we can see the Detective Phoenix peeking out of the graveyard there.
To allow to count for enchantment.
Yeah. So how many cards does Sudeep have in hand? Looks like 2 or 3, but based on Sudeep's body language, does not look like a lot of action right now.
And I thought Sudeep was missing lands for a hot second, so hopefully they're spells. The Tepper has so many cards in hand. Oh my goodness. Sudeep just did the check as well, noticing what I noticed. Oh yeah, you love a player in the tank. Will Sudeep find it? Yeah, it's crazy that the Phoenix can be bestowed for a single red mana. The real cost is having to exile mana value 6 worth of cards out of the graveyard. But this Ominous Flytrap and the Malevolent Rumble and maybe a Bolt can take care of that while maintaining most of Delirium for Sudeep. The question is, what cards proper in hand does Sudeep have to work with? We're going for a spell. We're going for a spell.
Let's see.
The Arena.
Oh.
Oh, no, just kidding. The Arena. Okay. Oh. The Arena Exert. All right. Up to 3. Yo, we trapping? Is it Fly Trap?
It is.
It's the Fly Trap. Okay. If I'm Sudeep, you just have to go for it. But this is a subtlety. Fly Trap going up to the top. Tepper's going to go down to 3 points of life, and this Solitude may start the stabilizing process. Sudeep with another card still. It's a Goyf.
Okay.
Give it flying. Give it flying. Give it flying. Give it flying. Put the Phoenix on it. Put the Phoenix on it. Put the Phoenix on it. Put the Phoenix on it.
Okay.
We know Brian has Solitude Omnath, so answer is still here, but the Phoenix is such an exciting moment.
And we're counting our collect evidence. So
Yeah, it's 3 from the Fly Trap. That's an easy one because it does a big chunk there. And it looks like Sudeep's going to exile possibly 2 Say Its names to get up to that 6.
some communication between the players here.
Yeah, that trap's up top. Oh, no, we're exiling this other Fly Trap from our graveyard. Yep, we're just placing all cards in the correct zones.
So it looks like we're taking a bunch of sorceries out here.
Yeah, but maintaining 1, Sudeep now gets to attempt to bestow this Phoenix on this Goyf. Tepper responding, gonna pitch this Omnath to Solitude, the Goyf.
Yeah, Tepper playing out this.
But the Phoenix falls off because it is a bestow.
Oh, sure.
Which is 2 damage with haste that Sudeep has available. Which means Tepper is going to take 2 from the Phoenix, take 2 from the ring, and go down to 1.
So big life gain for Sudeep. Unlikely to be super relevant.
Right.
Here, but
the important part is just how low Tepper's life total is going.
Oh, and then no attack.
No attack. No attack.
So Brian down to 3 off the ring instead of 1. Drew a land, counterspell.
Yeah, Tepper, the thing is it's risky to activate this ring, but you're going to take this damage anyway, so take your 3 cards.
Yeah, I wonder if we know this is our second ring, so we can try and draw 3 and then 4 with the Manamo to find a replacement.
Replacement ring, yeah. But Tepper here also finding a consigned to memory, so if things go poorly, Tepper can consign the damage trigger from his own One Ring next turn. So a 1 mana insurance plan, and now Tepper needs to figure out how to get through the rest of this game.
Absolutely. I wonder if Tepper's thinking about the possibility of if Tepper attacks and Sudeep blocks, then there's the possibility of another hasty bestow creature because there's a fly trap on top.
Oh, I love this. So if Tepper does try to attack this Eldrazi Scion, what Sudeep can do is block with the Scion, blocking a Solitude, and then sacrifice it so that he would not be able to gain life in combat. So Brian instead forced to have to cast a Wrath of the Skies X=3 to clear this board before attacking him with Solitude.
Great call. And now we've got untapped land. Okay.
Yeah, hold up that counter spell.
Absolutely.
But if Tepper accidentally takes a single point of damage, remember the insurance policy is the consigned to memory in Brian's hand. Can save him from his own ring. But no protection. But so few cards for Sudeep to work with, unfortunately.
So, in Sudeep's position, Brian's clearly representing counterspell. Do you put your fly trap into it anyway to try and get it out of his hand, or do you think that you're so behind on cards already with the ring at 3 that you want to try and choke him on mana at some later point and save your threats?
So the thought that I typically have is if Sudeep casts nothing, he creates a free counterspell for Brian, right? Because Sudeep does not cast a spell, so nothing happens. So Brian just gains free value from Sudeep continuing to not cast stuff, because then the counterspell will be there again the following turn, right? So you kind of create this like faux free one that gives Tepper a lot of time. So I think you kind of are forced to jam. This is not the like make them have it sort of thinking, but the forcing your opponent to interact so you can try to push through the cards that you're going to draw later.
Yeah, fair enough. We're going to see Brian go down to 1 here off of the ring.
And that could have been a moment that if, Sudeep had a second card of like feigning to try to this creature to be important, he could have like weaved in a bolt if the time was right. So there's a lot of opportunities in those windows of time, but Sudeep, 1 card at a time. This is where a control opponent wants to be, because they can definitely handle you casting just 1 spell a turn.
So I think that if I saw correctly, it was a say its name.
So Sudeep has drawn the 3rd say its name, but 1 was exiled to bring back the Phoenix. So Sudeep, I believe, no longer has access to exiling 3 of them to bring the big old 9/9 into play.
Is the say its name a 4 of in the deck?
I would think so. It's really odd because it asks you to exile 3 for Altanach the Thrice Called, but it's a nice, easy, clean 4 of for the deck. So, and Brian not messing around.
Getting a graveyard check, I assume.
Yep. I think just doing that check of do you have 3 of these, but Counterspell meets that second say its name because 1 is often bestow.
Oh, no. Brian going up to 4. So I imagine
he must consign his own ring at this point.
Oh, and we're monomoing also, yeah.
So deep for Brian at this point. Sudeep, the game's going to go on for a little while, but I promise you it's over.
This is so, yeah.
Right. And when you're the opponent, sometimes you're like, they dug 9 cards deep, but they found that consign. And Brian just had the whole time. Just was able to have that easy peasy move of going through all those cards. And now this Solitude is going to begin to be the only piece of pressure. But Brian does have a couple of copies of Subtlety in hand, has this Omnath. So the aggression will come quickly.
Yeah, and Brian is moving quickly because even if this game is functionally wrapped up, he does want to make sure that if it goes to a game of 3, he's leaving himself enough time to win a potential 3rd game.
This is always an important part of a control player's lifestyle of realizing when you have the game under control, but you actually need to finish it. Starting to enter turbo mode, right? Trying to get through as many turns and game actions as fast as you can. And here's the Omnath, double trigger, now the mana trigger. Tepper has this additional 4 mana that can be used.
For a
new ring. Yeah, Sudeep has seen enough. Remember, folks, this is just that game number 1. So it allowed both players enough time to possibly play game 2 and maybe a game number 3. Woo-wee.
Um, when we're looking at a control sideboard, is there anything that you want to bring in specifically, or just
Graveyard hate. Graveyard hate. You got graveyard hate, Brian? There's at least Celestial Purge, maybe, just to try to deal with the red half of Sudeep's deck. But you can see Tepper happy about winning that game, but maybe not happy about the sideboard options available.
yeah? I thought I saw one Ashiok, but
Oh.
and that would represent a more consistent way of dealing with the graveyard, unlike what we saw with the surgical extraction last
Mm-hmm.
round.
And I see Tepper bringing a copy of Force of Negation, which is an interesting choice because there's so many creatures on the beatdown, but there's other pieces of this deck as well. Those self-mill enablers, and when you cast a Detective's Phoenix with Bestow, it's an enchantment on the stack, not a creature, which I believe is a good time to fire off that Force of Negation.
That was gonna be. I was gonna ask that exact same
I
question.
believe so. Yeah, because I think Bestow makes it like a aura on the stack or something. But if I'm wrong, I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. There's no way to know.
From Sudeep, is there anything sideboard wise that might be coming in specifically for control? Is there Thoughtseize in the sideboard or the main deck?
I was about to say I'd be after cards like Thoughtseize or Veil of Summers. Any of the cards that kind of help me interact in some way, shape, or form against a 4-color opponent, as well as things like a Haywire Might or any other ways, probably in the green color pie that Sudeep has to exile artifacts, will help because the main way that Brian took that game away was the One Ring, the way many ring players take down many games.
Exactly. I think that Haywire Might would be, if it's in the sideboard, a really good choice. Two
Oh,
types.
2 types, you're right.
Um, and then we didn't see any leyline bindings, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the deck for Tepper also.
Right, you already see Tepper trying to achieve Delirium, but most likely not having any black cards. So that leads me to believe on the hunt for full domain across his mana base to have access to something like Leyline Binding. You don't need the black Triumph to make your Prismatic Endings that good, but you do need it to make your Leyline Bindings that good.
Absolutely. We got some shuffling up. We'll see if players like their opening sevens. And we are gearing up for game 2 here.
Brian didn't even buy Kahira last game. There was so much mana, he didn't even buy the Kahira. On Tepper also with the cards like Galvanic Discharge in the deck to go alongside the slight energy package of playing Wrath of Skies. But Brian did tell me that he is no longer playing Tune the Narratives, and instead is using that spot to play more removal in this form of Prismatic Ending.
Makes sense. If you're this into the 4-color domain stuff, you have to cut something somewhere.
Yes.
The energy seems like.
Yeah, the question was like, how fast does Brian want to turbocharge his Wrath of the Skies? And we were talking about an Urza Saga matchup. It's still a 2-mana sinkhole, and otherwise, willing to run the risk to have to kind of crank it a little bit higher to get a Wrath of Skies out. I feel like Brian has a 0-lander, but I could be slightly wrong.
There was a card that was a little bit shaded, but I think that was a 1-lander at most, so
Yeah.
we're going down to 5
I
here.
thought it might have been the Zagoth. It might have been nothing. But I can hear the players laughing and chuckling with each other, as you folks can see. And I have to imagine because Tepper's pretty vocal about the mulligans he's currently taking.
We do have Sudeep, though. It looks like keeping 7.
Which is hopefully a good sign for Sudeep. Not only keeping 7, being on the play, but your control opponent mulling down to 5. Like, these are the games that you hope are going to be the ones that go well for you.
Right. You might not necessarily be expecting the most fun game of Magic.
It may be fun for Sudeep.
Fair enough. But, take your wins where you can get them. Do you know if either of these two are in their running for our league leaderboard?
I know Tepper is pretty high up there. I tried checking in to see that we could highlight some players in the top of the league. I know Tepper is in the top 8 of our league currently. I believe kind of somewhere in the middle of those, maybe in the 4, 5, 6 range. But they'll have updates on everything coming to you as soon as possible. You can keep up with all the lovely players here. This is week 7 of our 10-week league, and then we'll be taking the holiday season off of the NRG league, just allowing people time to go every which way, enjoy time with family, enjoy time just playing a little bit of good old-fashioned Magic, and then we'll probably get back to the league in the brand new year.
So Sudeep, Surveillant, keeping on top. we got surveillance for both players. Uh, moving on.
Yeah, and if I'm Sudeep, if there's a card worth keeping on top, it must be a very good card because this deck kind of wants to turbo mill through its deck in any way, shape, or form to try to achieve that delirium. So if there's a card worth keeping, I imagine it's got to be a good one, like this Fear of Missing Out.
And so we're getting a basic, it looks like, after cracking a fetch just for one. Uh, no black mana yet, but that tells me either Sudeep has no black cards in hand or has another land that maybe is going to get that black source.
Is this the Duskborn Forest for Sudeep?
Yeah.
It is beautifully bright green.
Oh yeah. The Duskborn full arts really
They hit.
nice. Yeah.
Good. And yeah, we saw that Fear Missing Out. Drop of a Stomping Ground here for Sudeep. Brand new card, tossing it back to Tepper. A little bit of time, right? Because Sudeep's not on the full aggression of having like an Arena of Glory or something alongside this FOMO. But also looks like Brian might be short on colors.
There is a Misty Rainforest in hand and Wrath of the Skies.
Oh.
So, not sure what else we've got for Brian, but hitting Arena of Glory off of Say Its Name for Sudeep.
And not choosing to take this Goyf might be slight mana woes for Sudeep as well, or just interest in this arena. Yep, mana all shored up for Sudeep here. Looks like possibly interested in access to a 1-drop. You can see the die just to the left of Sudeep's graveyard. This would help us keep along with Delirium as well. Seems like it's currently 3. I imagine creature, land, sorcery.
Yeah, and Sudeep again eschewing black mana, getting another Surveil land.
Hey, you are right. I think the only black card proper in this deck are the Goyfs. I don't know as Sudeep makes changes and adjustments to the deck of wanting access to some of these black cards. But currently, as I know it, those are the black cards. And we can see real quick here, FOMO attack, use its own ability, FOMO attack again. Kind of like it's a 4-power attacker.
Ooh.
Depper, you did it. You found it.
So we have that sideboard Ashiok going to, I assume, target Sudeep, yeah, milling 4 and then exiling the whole graveyard.
Yeah. Specifically, Sudeep did it slightly out of order here, but the 4 cards are milled and then the full exile of the graveyard. What is nice about this is Ashiok can mill either player, but always exiles the opponent's graveyard. So allows you to sometimes have it as internal synergy for yourself, but always graveyard hate for the opponent.
Yeah, we see that synergy in Pioneer with Phoenix sometimes.
Yes, and then it's 4 Phoenix v Phoenix matchups of allowing them to be able to turbocharge mill themselves while exiling an opponent's yard.
And then this FOMO was able to get a double attack last turn because of the Delirium, but now the Ashiok is safe because it got rid of that Delirium. So only 2 damage.
And it'll be hard for Sudeep to try to get full Delirium in a single turn, so we're just going with a hasty Phoenix. That's 4 damage. That's the Ashiok taken care of. That was a 1-shot graveyard hate spell. And we see Sudeep brought in Blood Moon, so let's not forget we saw it get milled over and exiled to the Ashiok, but I imagine that's got to be sideboard tech that Sudeep brought in. Try to fight this 4-color deck.
So Supreme Verdict, great 2-for-1 there for Brian. Now that he's seen a Blood Moon, I wonder if he's going to be.
You get a basic here. Right. Oh, Basic Island. Basic Island. It's hard because Tepper needs green source, but yeah, looks like there's that Basic Island.
Yeah, so missing green and black, so not close to Domain, not close to Omnath.
I wonder for Tepper if the only green card is those Omnaths, so maybe he feels comfortable for a little while in this game, just not having access to green just yet.
Yeah, if there's Ashiok, we didn't see any endurances in the sideboard, so Omnath being the only green card does make sense.
Oh, a little Tarfire action for Sudeep. That completes Delirium because we have the Kindred Instant alongside the enchantment creature. So that's 4 that allows this Flytrap to come in with haste. Now this is not super Delirium, just normal Delirium. So it'll gain 2 counters and then attack and gain 2 more counters. That is 6 points of damage with haste due to this Arena of Glory.
Huge hit. So that is lethal next turn, right? Because it'll get 2 more counters from its attack.
Good catch, good call. This is a Galvanic Discharge with Looks like some leftover energy. Okay, yep. Oh no, creating energy. Paying 3.
Yeah, so
Uh
the galvanic discharge, 1 mana for 3 energy,
oh
lets
yeah,
Brian sort
as a
of ritual.
ritual. Yes, okay. And then allowed to pump that energy into the Wrath of the Skies. I feel like it could have been no. That was definitely the best way to use that as a big ol' energy mana ritual. And now a Dragon's Reach Channeler and Tepper down to just 2 cards.
Counterspell, and is that spell snare, right?
Yes. And so deep cast a 1 and a 3 through your 1 mana up.
Brutal for Brian.
And this ominous fly trap, it puts 2 counters on up to 2 creatures. So if Sudeep wants, Sudeep can also split it among these 2 bodies. And Sudeep does.
Makes total sense here, making each threat a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
reliable if there's a single removal spell. But Brian
And
scoops it
yeah,
up.
Brian scoops it up. An important part too about splitting those counters is if Sudeep gains that super delirium, having 6 or more, the ominous fly trap will also then double all the counters on creatures. So splitting them up makes it so that you can kind of go wide and tall all at the same time. Maybe put 1 counter and double that one while then loading up a bunch on the other.
Absolutely.
We're on to game number 3 with our aggressive deck against this control deck. Tepper's hopefully not going to mull to 5 again. Which will allow for possibly a little bit more of a back and forth, as Sudeep kind of got to run the show for a while there as Tepper just tried to tread water.
For sure. I'm sure Tepper, a little disappointed. That's Magic sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
hoping to keep more than 5 cards this time.
Yeah, I feel that in my soul. I played an RCQ over the weekend, made top 8. The second the top 8 started, I mulled down to 4 cards while being on the draw in the top 8, and I was like, well, this is over. I was happy to be here.
Yeah, so players currently at 1-1 have this is our first feature match to go to 3 games, right?
It feels like it, right? Yeah. Um, and hopefully it'll be a good 3, a powerful 3, a back and forth 3.
Yeah, we have a lot of fast, aggressive decks in the room here today. So
Tepper has a double ring counterspell hand, but I see a single land. Sudeep's dropping that hand, and Tepper put his hand on the table, so hopefully there's a second land in there, or maybe there's just a prayer in that hand.
I believe I saw 2 shock lands.
Okay.
Couldn't quite make out what it is, but Tepper does seem to be keeping, and Sudeep going down to 6. So ring, either
Hello.
Misty or Breeding Pool, and then a Sacred Foundry,
Okay.
Galvanic Discharge, and Counterspell.
Sudeep here on the hunt for that good 6. In modern day Magic, especially when you're on the draw, 6s feel a lot like 7s, right? You get to choose the best 6 out of these 7, as well as you could be the first to draw a card. So you're not that far behind on resources. I think draws on the 6s are as close as you can to 7s while giving yourself as best card selection as possible.
Absolutely. I remember it's been so long now since we changed over to this more recent mulligan rule,
Mm,
but drawing up to 7 every time for months, I felt like I'm like, this is dirty.
yes.
This is so many cards.
I remember the days of just mold to 5 no options, and I remember the days like mold to 5 scry 1, and now you feel like you're getting away with it every time.
So even though Brian has a Sacred Foundry in hand, I'm pretty sure, electing to get a hedge maze for that surveil
Mm-hmm.
instead of the Zagoth trying for the full domain here.
Oh yeah, important, right? The understanding of the interest in getting the surveil versus that domain was a big point of consideration once we started figuring out just how good these surveil lands are. But DRC goes down to Galvanic Discharge, and Brian gains 2 good dad points and adds those onto his energy storage.
So we do have another 1-drop from Sudeep. No
Sudeep. I felt the energy of not having the second land coming, the quick pass back. Sudeep, rip it here. Good game. Thoughtseize.
Okay, so we do have some additional black spells that either came in from the board or something to that effect. But Brian with the leyline binding for 2, since there's no swamp.
Sudeep, if you see this hand and you'd like to go home, I understand. You just let us know, man. You just let us know.
Gonna take one of those.
Take one of the rings. Great choice. Great choice. Best of luck.
Still no second land. Would you have kept? I know we didn't see the whole hand, but one lander, Thoughtseize DRC on 6 there.
Maybe. I am actively trying to be less greedy with my keeps right now. That's like my current Magic resolution is to not keep hands that might get there in favor of more powerful hands. So it is a skill that I need to work on, so I cannot fault somebody else, but I think I may have thrown it back.
Yeah.
The One Ring versus the one land. Thank you so much. An incredible chat. Tepper just revealing cards as a re-reminder for Sudeep, ones that have already been seen. But not another one. The best part is that even though the control player has the game fully on lock, I bet it still takes 10 minutes for Brian to end this game. But thankfully, on Omnath, a card with power and toughness has been drawn. And nope. Okay.
Brian really not in any hurry here.
Well, Tepper couldn't because his white and red are locked on the same land.
Okay. Yeah.
So needing to pass turn here without casting that Omnath. Sudeep just along for the ride. Maybe Tepper will kill himself. To the ring. You never know.
Anything could happen.
Anything can happen. Oh, Tepper drew a card that I didn't recognize. That's a fun one that doesn't normally happen. Pending Manamo. Well, now there's Manamo. Tepper can just go wild.
So now I imagine we're going to see that Omnath.
Yep, because this meticulous archive unlocked an additional source.
We've got some discussion from the players. Oh, confirming life totals.
All right. Oh, finger wag, finger wag, finger wag. All right, everyone's in agreement. Fetch land for this Omnath. If I'm Tepper, I'm kind of in the mood to just gain 4, pass turn, gain 4 on Sudeep's turn. Just make sure your life total is never a worry. But also, you could just go big mana is all you want.
I think that if there was another threat that Brian wanted to deploy to try and be aggressive, maybe there's a... What is it?
He's discarding.
Oh, sure, discarding.
He's discarding. Everybody back here is like, why did that go there? Tepper's just lining up the discards. Oh, yes, Sudeep, get him. 2 up top, Tarfire. Oh, baby, here we go.
All right, second land.
Oh, boy, everything's unlocked. Here we go.
So what does Sudeep want to get countered first?
That's such a rude, incorrect way to think about it.
It's face up on the table.
It's exactly face up on the table. You're not wrong.
Okay.
All right, Sudeep. It's got to be a FOMO. Because you want to at least it to be threatening enough that Brian actually uses the counterspell. If you believe you're a part of this game still. And that part is, up to Sudeep in his heart. So...
yeah,
it's fun.
Good call.
It's just the most impressive, frustrating thing that he can do for 2. Sudeep dropping a Detective's Phoenix. So a lot of good things are happening. But...
we do have Super Delirium for Sudeep based on that 6 on the die. Brian fetching here. Getting another basic.
Yeah. Tepper learned his lesson. He saw the Blood Moons before.
Don't get got over here.
As Tepper, yeah, just hear the words, don't get got. Mana all arranged every which way. Tepper down to 13. Oh no, he might die to his ring. Fun fact, Tepper can use the Manamo to give Omnath Vigilance. You can untap that legendary permanent as well if Tepper would like to. Just a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
For all those Manamo gamers out there who are also playing Omnath. You can technically also untap your Teferi or Narsets if they somehow become tapped, but
So it's just any legendary permanent, right?
I believe so.
Interesting. All right, so third
Oh,
land. Right on time, right? Just what we wanted?
yeah. Speaking of commercial district,
Second FOMO.
okay, you're fighting, you're casting spells. Brian just doesn't care about them. I have to imagine at some point there's just a hard cast Solitude as just the other aggression piece.
Yeah, we do have 6 mana up for Brian, and one of those basics is a plane, so 2 white mana.
Oh, Brian just declining to Manamo. Who cares? Who needs it?
Take 4 from the ring. We did not see a Solitude on the end step, but unlikely to matter here.
Oh, Sudeep not even blocking. Not interested. Ooh, we interested in the buying of Kahira? Kahira for sale, currently available, 3 mana. Never used, never cast, always pitched to Solitude, Kahira.
So Brian fetching for something unlikely to matter here, getting a surveil land. This game is so wrapped up.
But it is important to play to the outs that you believe that you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes playing Magic is fun, right? So these players are also probably doing that.
Yeah, we're seeing some smiles, and Sudeep totally entitled to take as much of this match as he wants.
As many game actions as he would like. As the FOMO meets its end. And the Ashiok is here as well, just in case. That's not it. We're going to keep gaming. Yes, game on. Oh. They're all having such an excited time. But that's the game. Brian Tepper taking you down 2-1 over Sudeep, playing Jund Delirium Tepper here on this 4-color control nonsense with Omnath being supported by the One Ring. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today for Season 3, Week 7 of the NRG Local Modern League here from the Buffalo Grove Home Store. I am Dom Stryker alongside
David Ains.
David, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell all of your friends, love, and support. Remember, it's not just about Magic, but it's also about the gathering. Thank you all so very much. See you on the flip-flop. Goodbye.
Peace.